I'm Clay Cruz, and our topic is power and authority and how it relates to the countries that we're going to study, as well as our own government, but mainly focusing on the overview and general information that you need to know about power and authority.
Okay. This is the right slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, um, the concept of what a state is state is basically peoples or a group of people that are under one common government. So the definition of a state is that you have to have um, a group of people who have sovereignty over a certain area of land. Um, Sovereignty meaning that they are able to um, regulate the use of their own land. They are able to pass policy. They're able to control their borders and function independently, providing stable institutions, institutions being um, groups put in place to care for the general welfare of the population for that state. So states are based on having institutions and sovereignty over the land um, and the people who live on that land. And so the purpose of states is to promote general welfare. So institutions can be like public transport, healthcare, and providing economic stability. But the concept of a nation is that a nation is a group of people with one common identity. So this common identity doesn't sometimes line up with what state you are in. So there may be a state that has several groups of people with different personal ideologies and beliefs, and that can sometimes be problematic in governing a state. So this is what happened in um, in British colonial India, where they split the country into East and West Pakistan and India.
All right. So throughout history, there have been many notorious political regimes. So pictured here we have Fidel Castro, Benito Mussolini, and Adolf Hitler, some of the most prominent historical figures in history, some ruthless dictators and people that we view as terrible people. However, their regimes were ultimately very successful for several years, if not an extended period of time. So the rules that a state sets and follows in exerting its power are referred to collectively as regimes. So a regime does not have to last only while a certain figure is alive. It can extend after the governance of that person. It can extend after their death. It can extend like if they've been ousted from their country, and it's overall just the set of rules and government that controls a country during a period of time. So, like Hitler had Nazi Germany, uh, Mussolini had fascist Italy, and uh, Castro was a ruthless dictator of Cuba. So there are two different types of regimes, mainly democracies and authoritarian states. Democracies are forms of government in which the governing is done for the people. There are frequent elections to political office, and the people who live in them are genuinely happy with their government. And if they aren't happy, they can protest it or they can elect new officials to change how their government is being run. That way, they can have the government that they want. And there are two main forms of democracy: indirect democracy, which is when the people elect representatives to govern, and then those representatives elect the members of the executive branch of the democratic government. And so this indirect system is kind of related to the parliamentary system, where they elect the members of parliament, and then the members of parliament elect the cabinet and the prime minister. And then there's the direct form of democracy, which is where the people elect both the representatives and the executives. So an example of the direct form of democracy would be the United States, because we elect the leader of the executive branch, which is the president, as well as the House of Representatives and Senate, which are going to be our representatives. So what the book says about parliamentary system. In this type of democracy, the principle of parliamentary sovereignty governs the decision-making process. Theoretically, the legislature makes the laws, controls finances, appoints and dismisses the prime minister and the cabinet, and debates public issues. In reality, however, strong party discipline within the legislature develops over time so that the cabinet initiates legislation and makes policies. The majority party in the legislature almost always votes for the bills proposed by its leadership, the prime minister and cabinet members. Even though the opposition party or parties are given time to criticize the legislature, eventually supports the decisions are eventually supported and given majority by the executive branches. Instead, the two branches are fused together. Also, typical of the parliamentary system is a separation in the executive branch between a head of state. So in England, that would be the Queen, and it just kind of symbolizes the power, like she's kind of seen as the figurehead of England. And then there's the head of government, which is obviously the prime minister. So then the presidential system is the system of democracy where the roles of the head of state and government are given to the president. A single person is both the head of state and the head of government. And so this central figure is directly elected by the people and serves as the chief executive within a system of checks and balances between the legislative and executive and judicial branches in America. The separation of powers between branches ensures that power is shared and that one branch does not come to dominate the others. As a result, power is diffused and the policymaking process is sometimes slowed down because one branch may question decisions that another branch makes. In order for presidential systems to truly diffuse power, each branch must have an independent base of authority recognized and respected by politicians and the public.